Do you want to get into? Do you want to go for your? Do you want to go? You want to do some Final Four selections?
Yeah. So Gus and I will. That sounds great. Gus and I will do our Final Four selections now, and clearly already we've realized from our fans of the show that I'm going to draw the wrath of a lot of you, and that's fine. Okay, that's fine. So I'd like to start with mine, and I'll do one. We'll alternate, Gus. How's that sound?
That sounds fine.
All right.
I like the ping pong effect.
Yeah. So listen, one of our emailers seems to be a loyal listener, although he's a bit of a contrarian. King Mark from Florida. All right. So King Mark has been contacting us saying, "How's that Oregon pick doing for the Final Four? Doesn't look too good, huh?" So
Sure.
let me tell you, King Mark, what I think you are. You are the guy who emails his friends in the first quarter of the game when it's like 10-4 and you text, "Uh-oh." That's what you do. You are just a trash talker that has to have first part of the season trash talk. So, no, I'm not concerned. And I know they lost, and I know Dylan Brooks needed to hit a 3 today to beat Tennessee, Gus. But no, this is going to take time. They lost one of the best players and a first-team All-American, future that is, from their team. So I have Oregon in the Final Four. Dylan Brooks played 13 minutes in that game against Georgetown and had 8 points. Yeah. So for King Mark from Florida, it's not like he was back. Okay, it's 8 minutes. All right. Dorsey hasn't shot well. Boucher, Dylan Ennis is going to play better. He can fill it up. He did so for Villanova at times. And Dane Altman's a great coach. All the Villanova fans I knew, Gus, from last year said, we can't beat Oklahoma. There's no way we can beat Oklahoma because we lost to them on the aircraft carrier 4 months earlier. People tend to overreact to the early season. This game's in Maui, okay? So it's a little bit of a different situation. I know that Georgetown had the bad loss to Arkansas State. I understand that. But last year at this time on December 5th, Gus, UNC lost to Northern Iowa.
Sure did.
So I bet, King Mark was saying, "Uh-oh," to all his North Carolina friends at that time.
You know what happened quickly after that, too? They also lost to Texas.
That's right. Exactly. So early season, and listen, they're going to adjust without Dylan Brooks. It's going to be a time for them to have to work through it. But last year, Syracuse lost to Georgetown. Early.
Syracuse lost to a lot of people early.
A lot of people early. So they didn't have Brooks. He just came back. Long plane ride to Maui. So I say that's weak sauce from King Mark from Florida, and I'm
sauce.
I'm going Oregon is going to the Final Four. That's my first team.
I don't have a really big problem with that. I think I love your logic here, and I love the comparison and the parallel between UNC last year making the final game and having some trouble early with some live teams. It's not like Texas and Northern Iowa weren't live teams last year, both making the tournament. But I do like that parallel, and I do think later on in the season this is going to be way in the rearview mirror for all Oregon Duck fans. And when they're really ramping up in the Pac-12, I'm kind of with you on this. I'm going to go to my first Final Four pick, and I'm just going to go tried and true. I'm going with one of the Blue Bloods. I am picking UNC to get back this year, even with losing Page, who's the nice power forward, and Bryce Johnson.
Yep.
Even losing Page and Bryce Johnson, I think that they're going to make it back. I love where Joel Berry's at right now. I think Justin Jackson is ready to take his next step. I love the tripod of big men down there with Meeks, Hicks, and Tony Bradley. I think they just we haven't even seen Seventh Woods or their other freshmen yet really to play big minutes. So I think once those guys get integrated into the rotation, everybody Roy is going to put on the floor is going to be an athlete, is going to contribute. There's going to be no people that take up space. And I really feel that now that UNC is kind of over this sanction things, I think everybody just did like a big sigh and just had like a big deep breath and just like felt like they could just start over anew. And I think that renewed outlook and everybody just kind of like letting go of that tension, I think they're just going to roll right back to the Final Four again this year. I really love what the Tar Heels bring, and we've said a number of times that guards win. You got Nate Britt and you got Joel Berry the second back there running around like their hair is on fire, and they are just an impossible guard. They're an impossible They're in your shorts on defense, and they're going to run up and down the court like mayhem and put up 80-plus points every game. I love UNC, especially with the freedom of movement rules that have been in play and everybody putting up 100 points. I really love when UNC can do, and if worse comes to worse, they can chuck it down on the block to those three big guys and get results from them. So I love where the Tar Heels are going this year. I love their start to the year. I think I'm calling a repeat to the Final Four for the North Carolina Tar Heels.
Yeah, that's a great one. That's a great one. Old Roy, I love that line. Old Roy's got some players. Old Roy's got players every year. Those guys are back. There was some article I saw today on ESPN, I think it was, that Justin Jackson is soft, or somebody's like, why is, okay, that's, what he's going to do? Now he's going to go out and start throwing dunks down on the break from Joe Berry II for that. So that's a really reasonable choice. No issue from me. It makes sense.
So I'll just comment on that soft comment. What's wrong with having a mid-range game?
Right.
That's where that comment comes from. God forbid he doesn't have a mid-range game. And I kind of can't wait to hear your second Final Four pick.
Yeah, well, we're gonna go and stick with what my second like was. We're going with Creighton. All right. Every team you see in the Final Four, Gus, is going to have strong guard play, right? So we're talking about Maurice Watson Jr. and Marcus Foster are as good as they come. So Watson and Foster are a phenomenal backcourt. That is not just a good, small, mid-major team backcourt, okay? That is a nationally ranked backcourt. They set the Paradise Jam record with 112 points in the win over North Carolina State. Similar to St. Mary's, right? They don't want to hear this mid-major thing anymore, so they're focused. They only had one player last year average more than 10 points per game, and already have 4 players over 10 points. So Greg McDermott's doing a great job. They struggled.
Fabulous job.
Yeah, fabulous job. They've struggled in conference the last 2 years. They finished tied for last in 2015 in the Big East, and then 6th in 2016. But they're already ranked in the top 25. They're ready to battle. And let me just remind you about Marcus Foster, because Gus, that is really the key to this pick.
Yeah, we've talked about him before on prior podcasts, and we're huge fans of Marcus Foster.
Just a couple quick things about him. He was averaging 14 points a game in 28 minutes when he was at Kansas State for 2 years. Now, that's the Big 12. We're talking about a major conference there. He averaged 12.5 points a game as a sophomore. He hit 2 game-winning three-pointers to beat Oklahoma, who was ranked in the final 5 seconds twice when he was there, once in Oklahoma and once home. That is critical, because when you're talking about these smaller schools, when they need an upset, it's going to be who's going to make the big shot down the stretch, right? They have that guy. Maurice Watson could do it too, absolutely, but they have that guy. He was all Big 12 second team. He pumped in 34 against Texas once, so he can explode. He had 10 or more points in 47 of 62 career games there, and 12 games of 20 or more points. So 12 games of 20 or more points as a freshman and a sophomore in the Big 12, and that guy's going to Creighton. He's loaded. He's averaging 18 points a game right now. Sophomore Kyrie Thomas, he's 14 points, and then Maurice Watson, who could be the best player, right? 12.6 and 9 assists a game. And by the way, they also have the 7-footer Justin Patton. As King Mark from Florida would say, Creighton is going to the Final Four.
Wow. I love this selection of Creighton getting to the Final Four. I'm really, really enjoying that you went out on a limb like this. It's really making my next Final Four pick unbelievably pedestrian, and I feel a little bit lesser saying that Kentucky is going to be my other Final Four pick.
Maybe you're just smarter, my friends.
I feel like it's a little bit of a letdown for the listeners. I'm sorry, listeners. I'm sorry, Mike Randall. I'm sorry, Screen the Screener podcast loyalists. I'm going to pick Kentucky for the pure reason that I think their backcourt is going to be the best freshman backcourt that we've seen in years, maybe ever, in NCAA basketball. And again, we talked about the intangibles that Briscoe is going to bring to this team in the locker room, in the huddle, on the practice floor. He's going to hold people accountable for the small things. And you know what they're going to do too? And I think Eric Fawcett mentioned this a lot on his interview, is they're going to just defend. Like, they have athletes to defend at every single position. And as much as we've talked about the freedom of motion and the big points that are going to get put up, defense is still going to be one of the trump cards along with rebounding. And if Monk can just continue to shoot it straight, similar to how Murray did and how the Harrison boys did a few years ago, I think once they get rolling, man, I think they're just going to steamroll some people in this tournament, and I really think that they're going to steamroll the SEC and just come in kind of like a house on fire, and they're going to be really tough to contain along on the offensive end, but also I think they're really going to get in some people's shorts and defend the dickens out of them. So I feel like it's a little bit of a letdown. It's not that exciting, but I'm going to go two major blue bloods, UNC and Kentucky. Not as exciting as your first two Final Four picks.
No, listen. I thought to myself, I said maybe I should put Kentucky in there. They are loaded. Monk is exploding. I get it. I just will still stick to this, even though, and Cal's been a master of it. So Calipari's done it better than anyone. Occasionally, Gus, freshmen act like freshmen, and no one's done it better than him. I understand that. And listen, if they didn't get underseeded and had to play Indiana, they may have made the Final Four last year again. I just, at some point, I think the seniors are going to come through. I'd love to see Creighton, Kentucky. I'd love to see the game in like a Sweet 16 Elite Eight. It would be tremendous. The over-under would be 5,000. Foster would want to have like 1 million points. I just think sometimes the youth. But listen, if Kentucky made it, it makes a lot of sense. And certainly that was one that obviously had strong consideration. We haven't even seen him lose. I mean, I get it, so it's fair.
I kind of want to hear your next two. But
give me yours. Give me your next one.
All right, so my next one is a little exciting, and I have a little reasoning behind it. You know what? This year it's finally going to happen. He's going to get the monkey off of his back. Not that there's a monkey there, or there needs to be one, or there needs to be anything said about this to validate anybody's career or success. But Gonzaga and the Zags,
that's what I want to hear. Good job.
Are going to finally get that Final Four berth.
Boy. Well done.
And here's how it's going to happen. They're going to lose the WCC regular season to St. Mary's.
Quite the teaser, might I add, for my next pick. But go ahead.
And they're going to come in a little bit under the radar. St. Mary's has all of their starting five back. Gonzaga's big men inside, the two freshmen, are going to come around by season's end to really help out the mountain of a man that they have inside. Jonathan Williams is really going to start to find his spot as that honest old school power forward. They have Nigel William Goss, the transfer from Washington, and Wes Matthews, a transfer from Cal, in the backcourt. And they're really capable back there. And then they have a whole bunch of those Gonzaga lifer guys that they can plug into those spots that are going to defend, pass the ball, not turn it over, be really efficient, run the offense efficiently, and plug the holes defensively. So I think Gonzaga is going to do it. They're going to get there. It's going to be like this mini celebration for the Zags. And Mark Few is just going to be smiling the entire time because initially he'll be a little down about not winning the regular season, but when they show up in the Final Four to play UNC or Kentucky, everybody's going to congratulate them. It's going to be like they're going to be like the person that everybody was so glad that somebody invited to the party, and they finally found a ride to the party. So I think Gonzaga, I think this is the year that they're going to get there.
I love it. I think it's a tremendous pick. I'm almost rooting for your pick to beat my next pick, which is going to be St. Mary's. So we're
WCC represent
the old right church, wrong pew, right? All right.
Oh,
so,
okay.
The logic is very similar to your Gonzaga logic. The expectations are the highest they've ever been in St. Mary's. They got all 5 of their starters back, and they set a school record last year with 29 wins or 29-6. Okay. Emmett Narr, Jock Landell, Calvin Hermanson, they're all juniors. This team will get over 30 wins. You can lock that up right now. Okay, so now we're talking about a team with 30 wins. It's time for St. Mary's. It's time, guys, to take the next step. The step's been made by Butler. I feel like it's been made by Gonzaga. You outlined it perfectly. The Gales don't want the mid anymore. They want to be a major, and that is going to happen this year. They were ranked in the AP preseason poll, guys, for the first time in school history. And they got all 5 starters back. Yep. Landell is 6'11". He's the big man in the middle. The Australian recruiting pipeline is alive and well for Coach Bennett. Calvin Hermanson, the southpaw, looked great in the big win at Dayton recently. He's 44% from behind the 3-point line. I love Emmett Nar. You know that. Big win at Dayton. If they survive the road game at Stanford, okay, they're going to be 16-0 before they play at Gonzaga. You can take that to the bank. And that's a big game then. They could be 16-0 if they win that game at Stanford. They're going to be a top 15 team all season long. Oh, and by the way, right now they're ranked number 15 as we speak in both the AP and the USA Today coaches poll.
So that game at Stanford that you mentioned, I mean, we'll get to a few fishy lines later. You know what's going to happen? They're going to be favored on the road at that game.
Yeah, sick.
That's what's going to happen. Like, I don't see any other reason why they wouldn't be. And this is no slight on Stanford or the Cardinal. I think this is just speaking to how well St. Mary's is going to be playing, rolling into that game, and how smooth that offensive machine is going to be rolling. I love your St. Mary's Gale pick. You have Creighton and St. Mary's. I mean, can we please spread the West Coast love? You have St. Mary's and Oregon in your Final Four. West Coast, baby.
And St. Mary's, Gonzaga, Creighton. Here's my point, everyone. You're going to tell me it can't happen. Really? I'm going to give you a screen-to-screener in-game update right now. Right now, the number 3 team in the country, Indiana, is losing to Indiana, Purdue, Fort Wayne, Mastodons. So you're telling me, and you're going to email the show, and please do, by the way, that these predictions are crazy? Indiana's losing to Indiana, Purdue, Fort Wayne, Mastodons, 62-60 with 4:45 left to go in the game. That's what I'm telling you. Sports is not logical. That's why we love it. So I'll take Gonzaga, Creighton, St. Mary's, and I'll give you here, Gus. I'll give you my last one right now.
Beautiful.
Going big power conference, but not traditional choice. I'm going with Baylor.
The zone.
Go with the zone. And I haven't always been a big Syracuse fan, but the fact is they're a tough match. We saw it last year. No one thought they were making the Final Four. Zero.
As a 10 seed.
Baylor. All the preseason Big 12 attention went to Kansas, a lot to Iowa State.
Sure.
Well, maybe Baylor's 17-point win over Oregon, maybe that woke America up. Scott Drew has a lot of talent. He wants to erase the demons of last year's loss to Yale. He's got Freeman back. He's got Motley back. He's got Ish Wainwright back. They are talented on both ends of the floor. And the ceiling has been raised by 2 newcomers. One that you love, that you mentioned last time, right? Junior Miami transfer, Manu LeConte, okay?
Love Manu.
And someone I want to talk about as much as possible in the Screen podcast this year, 7-foot center, Joe Lual-Aquil. He sat out last year to a heart issue, and he is a major – he's got 16 blocks in 3 games already, okay? That's a 1-3-1 zone. That's Scott Drew. They're long. They're athletic. Manu's a great point guard. He's averaging 35.7 minutes per game. He's going to be on the floor the whole time. They are the primary threat to Kansas going for their 13th straight Big 12 championship, Gus. Scott Drew deserves a Final Four. Athletes plus zone equals a horrific matchup. You tell me they can't beat UNC. They can't beat Duke. They can't beat Wisconsin. Of course they can. That's my 4th Final Four team.
Wow. That is an outrageous Final Four. It is so eclectic. Mike Randall, I applaud you for these unbelievably off-the-wall and off-the-radar picks, but your logic behind all 4 of your picks was unbelievably sound. Love all 4 of your picks. I love the eclectic nature of all 4 of these picks. I'm really admiring your bold predictions. The last pick that I have is also a traditional blue blood. I'm going to go with I'm going to ride your guy, Thomas Bryant, and I'm going to say Indiana and Crean. That's his next trick.
As long as they don't play the Mastodons.
His next trick is going to be to get to the Final Four. Your podcast in-game score update is not swaying me on my Final Four. I am going to stick with the Hoosiers and their delicious-looking candy cane pants to make it to the Final Four. I think they're kind of I think their flow on offense, their positionless offensive game plan, Bryant in the post and then coming out. I think Blackman might have a little something to prove. I think they can get there without a true point guard. And maybe one will develop throughout the Big Ten season. I'm not sure. And I think when push comes to shove, I have a sneaky suspicion that they might actually win the Big Ten over some of the other favorites.
Wow.
It's going to be a dogfight, but I think Indiana might be the one that comes out on the top of that pile. And then I think they might ride that momentum all the way to the Final Four. So I'm going to go UNC, Kentucky, Gonzaga, and Indiana.
I love it. Listen, Indiana, you know how impressed I am, with them, and last year especially as well. By the way, 3:10 left to go. The Mastodons up 62-60. But no, I'm with you. I think it's great. When you lose the big player, the team rallies around James Blackman. I think it's a great pick. We love Crean. We root for Crean. I think that's a really, really great one too. So just to recap here, folks, Gus's Final Four: the Tar Heels of North Carolina, the Wildcats of Kentucky, Gonzaga, Indiana. I'm going still with Oregon, Creighton, St. Mary's, and Baylor. Wow, exciting.
Those are bold Final Four picks. Mine are a little vanilla. Yours are very exotic. I really, really am enjoying these picks. A couple other dark horses that we want to throw in there, even though they're off to a little bit of a struggle. We were kind of thinking about UConn, throwing them